I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll do public comment and hand it over. Okay. I appreciate everyone for coming to our meeting this morning, and we will have an opportunity to hear from everyone who wishes to speak. Now is the opportunity for public comment on consent agenda items or any other topic not on today's agenda. For those who would like to speak about any of the action items, we will give you the opportunity to do that when that item is discussed. Please fill out a green card and get it to Rachel at the front. And we have one card from Ray Bates. Mr. Bates, good morning. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. The City of New Orleans has many more than its share of majorly messed up problems, and admittedly most of them are of their own doing. But getting its citizenry and the all-important tourists from where they are to where they need to be isn't one of them. I lived in New Orleans for 16 years and have returned on several occasions for 2-week up to 2-month stays with work, and I never had half the problems with schedules and connections as I had in the first month using Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority. 3 times in 1 week, I was drenched to the point of soaked shoes, once giving up entirely on the bus and walked 30 blocks in the rain to get to where I was going. Why should we use PSTA when its own board members won't trust it enough to use the transit authority? Before last month's meeting, a board member entered the room commenting disbelief that Uber could get them here faster than they could drive themselves, and a couple of other members commented on the inconvenience of driving here due to traffic. I believe it should be added to the board member's job description and duties that they be required to use the transit authority for a 7-day-in-a-row period each month, which would include a full weekend to get around to all of their business and their personal errands and functions, like we do. Maybe then you would become as painfully aware of the poor scheduling practices, emphasis on the amazingly miscalculated connections the transit authority employs, and would demand changes be made. When hubs such as Grand Central, Tyrone Mall, Shops at Park Place, and Gateway Mall have buses arriving, you should not have missed what should have been your connection by just 5 minutes or even less. And having to wait 30 to 45 minutes or even an hour for the next bus is ridiculous. The City of New Orleans has at least 5 times the number of buses on its routes, so the travel times are drastically reduced, and the cost of a 31-day pass is only $55 compared to PSTA's $70. Their fare is $1.25 one way, $1.50 with a transfer. PSTA doesn't offer transfers, so you must pay another $2.25. Maybe the City of New Orleans business owners wouldn't stand for their employees to be extremely inconvenienced and show up late and ticked off every day, or maybe the New Orleans Regional Transit Authority takes pride in a job well done. My suggestion is maybe one, or better yet, all of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority board members should reach out to the New Orleans Regional Transit Authority to come speak to you about how they get things done more efficiently and at a better cost to their riders. It's easy to reach them through a Google search, even for a technologically challenged individual like me. And by the way, the 8 buses that I heard announcing the importance of hurricane preparedness had no rack cards on them concerning the information for hurricane preparedness.
Mr. Bates, thank you so much for your comments this morning. And I wanted to share with you that this board is working really, really hard to put in place really good, reliable public transportation options. And if you have just a few minutes, perhaps you'd like to chat with Mrs. Cassandra Borges, who's standing right behind you. Thank you. All right, so this morning we have Gloria. Gloria, welcome this morning. Gloria is on our advisory board, and she has come up with a terrific idea to give an award out to recognize people in our community who make it easier for people to use public transit. So Brad, Gloria, please join me in the front to introduce the winner, the City of Oldsmar.
Thank you. I have served on the PSTA Transit Riders Advisory Committee for the past 4 years. And I couldn't be more proud, is that, okay, good, that's right, of this year's track members and the positive impact that our dedicated volunteers have on improving service and safety for all PSTA transit riders throughout the region. Each month we meet to come up with new ideas and strive to make transit more accessible and safer for all. Building on the success of our 2017 safety initiative, we recently, in conjunction with, or with a lot of help and assistance from PSTA, have developed a new award program called the Track STAR Award. STAR is an acronym that stands for Superior Transit Access Recognition. This award is designed to recognize state and local agencies, contractors, municipalities, and private sector businesses that design, build, and or improve pedestrian and rider-safe access to transit stops. This morning, PSTA CEO Brad Miller and I are pleased to recognize the first Track Star Award recipient for the redevelopment of Woodland Square Shopping Center in Oldsmar. It is an example of a partnership effort between the developer and the City of Oldsmar that resulted in the construction of a significantly improved safe access route to stores from sidewalks and bus stops. As you can see from the first slide, this shopping center is right along PSTA's Oldsmar Connector route that goes along Tampa Road at the intersection of Curlew. Previously, it was very difficult for any transit rider to get to a bus stop from any of the stores or the movie theater. I would say it's not just difficult, it was impossible. This slide shows there was absolutely no safe way to get from the sidewalk into the shopping center other than going in active car lanes. But thanks to the City of Oldsmar and Ram Real Estate, the shopping center's owner, working together, they made significant improvements that make it so easy now to get to those stores. And now it's a place where I can shop before I never could. So it's a...
Thank you, Gloria. And would Mr. Blanton, who is the Executive Director of Forward Pinellas, and Mayor Beavis, please join Brad and I for a photo op?
Yeah, I would just like to add, Gloria and the track committee have done a great job with this program. This is the first of what we hope will be many awards. And most importantly about this award, it is about transit-oriented land use. So I would like for not only Mayor Beavis and the City of Oldsmar to be recognized, but also Forward Pinellas. And so for our photo, I would like not only Chair Long, but also the chair of Forward Pinellas, Doreen Caudell, to join Whit and all of us up here to be recognized for this great, hopefully first of what will be many awards.
Widen the lid.
Yeah. To widen the lid.
Okay. We're all going to see.
Yep. I think we all have a name tag.
Yeah, we all have, yes. I'm the T. I'm the T, sir.
What's my name again?
I don't want to run over your phone.
You're fine. I have a lot of them.
That's still, it's a heavy chair.
Oh, they're going bad.
No.
Gloria, don't go too far because I believe you're coming back for the Transit
Yeah.
Riders Advisory Committee report
Yes.
and update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Better move this back down again. There we go, I got it, thank you. Okay, good morning, Chair Long, Mr. Miller, and esteemed board members. First, I wanted to thank you again for listening to our ideas. The Track Star Award given today is a perfect example of how track makes PSTA and the community work better together. It is our hope that the attention received will encourage others to follow suit and plan future projects with safety for pedestrians and transit riders in mind. We encourage new applicants to seek out this recognition for all of your communities. We hope that you will find more of these recipients that we should recognize. The Track Star Award application is on the PSTA website under the Track Committee page. And again, they're available from PSTA as well. Our first meeting, our last meeting, excuse me, was on July 17th of 2018. We had two other presentations from PSTA staff in direct response to our other track initiatives for 2016. Actually, no, for 2018, excuse me. Clean shelters and improving communication to riders. Henry Lukasik, the Director of Maintenance, gave us a detailed presentation regarding PSTA's extensive bus stop and shelter maintenance program, which we were really amazed to see the wonderful things that they are doing. And this was followed by an update from Cindy Raskin-Schmidt, Director of Communications and Marketing, regarding the many different ways PSTA communicates upcoming service changes to the riders. Our next track meeting will be held on August 14th, and as always, we invite you to attend. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very good update on what you're all doing. And thank you for the award for the City of Oldsmar. So I am happy to report on the Forward Pinellas Board meeting on July 11th. The board heard an update on the development of the long-range transportation plan, which along with PSTA's community bus plan is being branded as Advantage Pinellas. The board also heard an overview of the draft multimodal project priorities list for 2018. A final proposed priority list will come before the board in September for approval. Transit projects on the draft include Central Avenue Bus Rapid Transit, the Clearwater Beach to TIA Regional Transit Service, the Clearwater Beach Busway, and the Harn Boulevard Overpass across US 19. Executive Director Whit Blanton broached the idea of taking a few board members on a fact-finding trip with PSTA to Indianapolis and Cleveland to learn how those cities successfully develop transit. More information will be forthcoming as we move forward. And now we are on the consent agenda, and I would like to ask everyone or for a motion, please, for consent. Or before we get there, are there any questions from the rest of the Forward Pinellas board members? Or you want to add anything? Anything? No? All right, now on to consent. Who was it, you, Brian, that moved? May I have a second, please? Second by Commissioner Barkley. All those in favor, please open the voting card. There we go. Please cast your vote. And that is unanimous. Thank you so much.
See a vote option.
See a vote option.
No.
Approved.
Yes.
Yes, so moved.
There we go.
I apologize. It's still unanimous vote. Consent.
Don't either of our.
So we are on our first action item to advertise in the property appraisers trim notices. Our CFO, Debbie Leos, good morning, Debbie.
Good morning.
Will introduce this item.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is an annual action item to seek approval of the proposed millage rate that will be submitted to the property appraiser in early August. The current millage rate is .75, and the proposed millage rate for fiscal 19 is to stay the same at .75. By maintaining the millage, an additional $3,792,930 will be generated. Now, we are very happy about that because in our budget, as we discussed it last month, there are substantial increases in such areas as DART, fuel, and health insurance, which I'll be talking about in the next action item. So this action item was brought to the Planning Committee. It was unanimously recommended there, and I don't know if Commissioner Barkley would like to make any comments from the Planning Committee.
I would, thank you. The Planning Committee had a very good discussion about the impacts of the possible homestead exemption increase on PSTA, as well as the increasing costs of fuel and health insurance, and unanimously recommended the proposed millage rate of 0.7500 be transmitted to the Pinellas County property appraiser.
Any questions from the board? Thoughts, concerns? I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you please repeat the total that will bring into PSTA, since I don't see it totaled in the,
It should
I see
be,
the increase, but I don't see what the total
Oh, the
number is. I know you said it, 17 million.
well, the increase is $3,792,930. That brings our total property tax revenue to $49,113,740 for fiscal 19.
47,113,
49.
47,113,749. 49.
49,
I can't
yes.
get my numbers straight. Good job.
It's early today for numbers.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Questions from Commissioner Rice?
Debbie, could you please tell us again what your estimate is of what the impact will be if the homestead exemption
It'll be
passes?
about $2 million.
Thank you.
Is that it, Commissioner?
That
Rice?
is, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Johnson?
I just wanted to know, since part of this was predicated on DART, will part of the money go over to transportation disadvantaged?
All of this money is going into our budget, and even despite the very good increase that we're going to be seeing with this, with the property values increasing, next year at this point in time, we're still facing a deficit for the first time in a long time in our operating budget.
Okay,
So it's going to only partially cover some of these substantial increases.
okay, but my
So it will go
question is
towards
different.
DART and TD DART, yes.
Will go over to transportation disadvantaged?
Yes.
Which is separate from the other
Correct.
operating board.
Mhm.
Not board, the other operating expenses for the agency, right?
Right, so that's all within part of our operating costs. Yes,
Okay, thank you, Debbie.
all right.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What budget year would, if the additional homestead passes, what budget year would that affect? Would it be this year we're talking about?
No, it'll be in 2020.
2020, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Eggers, did you have a question?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Before we, what? Scared me to death. Before we take action on that, I would like to ask Mr. Blanton, if you don't mind, if you could come forward and give us a little thought about the funding workshop that we are trying to work on for the fall. That may give some folks a little more comfort.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Whit Blanton, Executive Director of Ford Pinellas. Wanted to let you know that we've reached out and had a productive dialogue with the county administration, and Brad Miller and Cassandra Borchos were part of that conversation as well, to talk about how we can grow the funding pie in Pinellas County for transportation broadly. And so we met about 2 weeks ago and have a second meeting planned for August 8th. And we're talking about looking into the possibility of expanding the county gas tax by 5 cents and looking at other potential funding sources as well that would bring in more dollars to Pinellas County from outside sources, particularly state and federal funds, because as you all know, it's really important that you have local dollars committed in order to bring in state and federal funds for transit in particular. The county also has some challenges with a structural imbalance with the current gas tax and keeping up with road resurfacing and maintenance needs, and that's a big concern that county administration has. So in meeting with the county administrator, we agreed to come back in about 2 or 3 weeks to look at what the full needs are for county transportation, including the backlog of road resurfacing and maintenance and transit opportunities, and see where the funding sources are that we have today, what opportunities we have to use those funding sources, and maybe provide some additional flexibility of those funding sources to capture state and federal funds. And what I understand is that the Florida Department of Transportation is sitting on roughly $300 to $350 million in potential transit funds, but they're needing local governments to commit to providing a local match and also committing to the maintenance and operations of any service that would provide. So the gas tax is an opportunity to help provide maybe some small ball success, short of a voter referendum that would be required for something like a sales tax. So at this point, it's very premature. We may or may not go down that path, but we want to look at all the options, and I don't think it hurts to have the conversation. So what we may do is within sometime in the next 6 months is have a transportation funding workshop that looks at those full needs, that involves the PSTA board, the Ford Pinellas board. I've suggested that the mayor's council be involved in that discussion, the Board of County Commissioners, and we look at all those different options and see if there's some political direction, policy consensus that would guide us in whatever assumptions we want to make in our Advantage Pinellas initiative. So that's essentially, it's very premature, but I don't think it hurts to have the conversation if those are options that are on the table today.
Thank you so much, Whit. As we all know, you can't really solve a problem if you can't communicate. So getting everyone together would be probably a long overdue. So thank you for your efforts.
Sure thing.
Are there any comments or questions from the board?
Question from the board. On your list of people and agencies that you're asking to be represented, can you put transportation disadvantaged on that list?
I think that has to be part of the equation, absolutely.
Because that's an important part of it.
It's an important unmet need, too, as we all know.
Thank you so much, Whit.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Anyone else have any comments? All right, may I have a motion, please, to approve the millage rate?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Barkley, seconded by Commissioner Rice. Would you please open the voting card? We still have members that aren't. Do we have folks that aren't able to get their card up?
Yeah, mine didn't come on.
Brian Scott, and who else?
That's it?
I thought we had 14.
Oh, yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
It's already crashed on you once.
Present our next action item, which is the 2019 Employee Health Benefits Contract, a key component of our budget each year, as we all know. Thank you, Debbie. Please proceed.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Today we're going to be talking about the employee health benefits and the performance of our new concepts that we introduced for this fiscal year, as well as what we are recommending for fiscal 19 as it relates to the insurance renewals. Last year when I stood before you at this time, we were facing a 90% increase in our claims costs over a 2-year period. So we knew we had to do something different. So we, for the first time in PSTA history, offered multiple options to our employees. There were 3 plans that we came up with. One was to keep the insurance as is, which we called the buy-up plan. That was the most expensive option to our employees. We came up with another alternative, which became our new base plan. It had increased deductibles, slight increases in co-pays, and pharmacy. And what we discovered through this whole process is that our employees loved going to the emergency room for everything. So we decided to increase the copay on the emergency room to $300. And let me tell you, it has worked to reduce that. And then the out-of-pocket costs remain the same. What was really different that we offered was a high deductible plan. And to incentivize our employees to take a look at this, we offered it free for our single members. And you'll hear me talk a lot about single members because that's the majority of what our employees have. And we had reduced rates for others. In addition, we incentivized the employees by providing $200 to $400 into a health savings account. This is important because we need to keep our employees, attract employees. We lose 4 to 5 employees a month to retirement. And so we want to stay competitive in the marketplace. A lot of our employees come to PSTA because of health insurance. They need it, and we offer good plans. It was a very big education process this past year as we offered these 3 new options. So we spent a lot of time talking to our employees as we have throughout the year. What we wanted to make clear as we made these changes is that 90% of our employees have never reached the deductible of $750. 85% of our employees have never paid the deductible. So we wanted to say it's not as scary as it sounds to go to this new alternative plan. On the chart that is up there, you can see we've got the buy-up plan, the most expensive, the new alternative, which I think it's affectionately referred to as the $29 plan, and then the high deductible plan, which was free. And in the last column, you can see the levels at which we contributed to the health savings account for this year. Did this work? I like to experiment. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I am happy to say this is one of the experiments that has worked extremely well. We have found that the average cost per employee has improved significantly. On the chart down there, on the very first line was the average cost per claim for the previous year, where we only offered one plan at $974. If you take a look all the way to the right in the second last column on the bottom, we're now down to $873 average. Each of those columns represents the 3 plans. The buy-up plan is where the claims costs are the most expensive at $1,800, all the way down to the high deductible, where it's only $65 per claim. So that's really good news as we look forward. You can see on the bottom, the majority of our people are in the new base plan with $70 in the high deductible. And how these plans have performed are very important as to how we've allocated the cost increases for 2019. For 2019, across the United States, the average cost increase for medical is 7%. For the state of Florida, it's 10%. We are coming in, based on our experience, at 9.7%. We've allocated the increases to 14% to the buy-up plan because that's where most of the claims costs are. The new base plan at 8%, and we have maintained the high deductible at the exact same rates they were for this year, no increase. We're also going to be contributing again to the health savings accounts. And I've put up both this year's chart coming forward in 19 as well as 18, so you can see the difference. The $29 plan is now only $31.32, but we're hoping a lot of people will shift from the buy-up to the new base, and from the new base to the high deductible. As I mentioned, part of having new options means a lot of education. So we spent a lot of time last year and throughout this year with multiple ways of learning to change our behavior to healthier ways, through education classes, smoothie tastings, having contests for walking steps, etc. And we have partnered well with SEIU, which is where the majority of our members are, in achieving this. One of the things that we're looking at this year is a different incentive that we're going to possibly pilot for our high deductible plan, see how it works, and that is providing the people with a Fitbit. And that will help us to incentivize healthy behavior. And if it's 10,000 steps a day is the goal, and they meet it, we would contribute, let's say, $3 to their health savings account for each day they reach 10,000 steps. What is this going to cost us? $7.6 million for all of our health insurances, which is the action item today for the medical, the pharmacy, the dental, the vision, the life, and the accidental death insurances. This is below what we had proposed in the budget last month at 7.8 million. That allows me some cushion to do some innovative incentives, and it also allows me to perhaps reduce what I have in the budget for next year to help reduce the deficit that we're facing. Are there any questions regarding this action item?
Good job. Any questions? Commissioner Barkley?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. The Finance Committee reviewed this renewal, and we had a very good discussion, and we appreciate PSTA's efforts to maintain low costs for both PSTA and its employees. We unanimously recommend the attached renewals with the following vendors: Cigna for medical, prescription, and dental insurance for fiscal year 2019, Advantica for fiscal year 2019 vision insurance, and optional life and accidental death and disability insurance through Minnesota Life.
Thank you, Mr. Barkley. Mr. Scott, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Debbie. Hey, just a quick question. See, there's an opportunity with 5 one-year renewals. Those would not be at the same rates, I would assume?
No, and it also gives us the option, should the rates become extremely high for whatever reason, to go back out again into the marketplace and to negotiate.
Any opportunity?
Or become self-insured.
Any opportunity to lock those rates in for another year?
Don't you wish?
I doubt it, and since we're seeing improvements in our claims costs, I wouldn't want the insurance carrier to win out on this one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Any questions, any comments? No one? Okay.
Commissioner.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Commissioner Tonga.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You pointed out that you've seen a change in attitude, sort of, I think, because of your education and the activities that you're doing. And that was an increase from the previous years, I guess, that communication.
Yes, and we found that through a lot of our initiatives last year, we really started with like a weight loss program where we saw a 26% decrease in our claims cost just with that alone. And then what we've done is like lunch and learns, lunch and snacks. They're all healthy snacks. And we've done different things to educate people on how to, one of the things that I liked was, how do you eat healthy on a budget? Because a lot of people feel they can't eat well if they don't have the income to do so. And we found different ways to do that. We've done exercises, like I said, smoothies. Can't remember what all of them were. We did quite a bit this year.
I think that's outstanding because I think we all realize how complicated insurance can become, and sometimes eyes glaze over when we start talking about it. They don't understand. We don't understand it, and I think that's just a reminder to all of us to continue to do that at all times. In the program, the folks that are within the union and the folks that are not within the union, they have the same program.
Everyone has the same program, yes.
And are there age requirements at PSTA for how long you can remain an employee at PSTA?
No.
So a driver could continue to be a driver at the age of 75 years old?
Yes.
Yes.
And they have a medical, they have to pass medical tests.
Sure, sure.
But yeah.
So I think that's great, and I just wanted to point that out because in a pool, or as you're trying to gain employees, obviously we're continuing with a very strong program for everyone here. So it's very competitive. Another question that I had, have you experimented, and I brought this up before, so just ask and see if you had any involvement with this, of an opportunity for somebody to opt out of the medical program?
Yes, we have that option.
You have that option. Have many people done that? Has
No.
anyone done that?
No, there's maybe a half a dozen people.
Okay. So they're aware of the fact in your presentations that they could do that. What do they get, roughly, just roughly, to opt out?
It's not much money. I'd have to get back to you on that. I think it's a couple $100s. It's a one-time.
One time. Is that something that might be of value to look at?
We have talked about that, to be able to offer that. Over the years, it may bring back a diminishing return, but I think that's something that we have looked at.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, Commissioner Rice?
Oh, I withdraw my question.
Oh, you do? Okay. Anyone else? Anyone? Then may I have a motion, please, to approve the help?
I have a motion to approve the action item for employee health benefits.
Second?
Then please open the voting card. All right. And now we are on 6C, State Government Affairs Contract Extension. Brad?
This action item is similar to one that you just saw last month. Last month, we approved extending our federal government affairs contracts. And so this month, we're back to extend the agreements with our state government affairs consultants. For the last 2 years, we've had a really good relationship with RSA Consulting, and they are represented here with Natalie King, and their partner under our contract, Alan Susky, are here. They've done a great job over the last 2 years in Tallahassee. One thing we did 2 years ago when we issued the new RFP that got us RSA was include a lot of new reporting requirements. And they've done a very good job of providing me with regular updates and meeting those reporting requirements. So this agreement, the action item today is to authorize extending them for the first of possibly 3 option years for next year, and then authorizing the CEO to approve option years 4 and 5. They have kept their fee the same for the first 2 years, and they are proposing to keep their fee the same for year 3 with $500 a month increases in years 4 and 5. The Finance Committee, without a legislative committee, which normally this would go to, we took this to the Finance Committee, and they reviewed it and unanimously recommended. Any questions?
Commissioner Barkley?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. The Finance Committee reviewed this contract, and we unanimously recommend approval of the first option year at RSA Consulting Services, and want to also allow the CEO, Brad Miller, to exercise all remaining option years.
Thank you. Is there any, Patty Johnson, go ahead, please.
I just want to say thank you. They have drugged me through Tallahassee many, many, many times. We have been successful in all of our quests in Tallahassee. I am so proud that they're up for renewal, and hopefully that they're suggested by our group to get this contract. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know I can be pretty difficult, and I know it's hard to drag me through. Thank you. It's been great.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the renewals, under the authority of the Executive Director, would that be reported in a next meeting consent agenda, or would it be something communicated to us before you made that decision? How would you plan on making the decision to renew the 1 years?
That's good. That's a good question. So any contract like this would be reported to you in your board packet. Every contract, I think it's over $50,000, is reported to the board. And then on this contract specifically, we would have a discussion at the legislative committee about, before we renewed another year, if there was any issues or anything that might have come up during the year.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Commissioner Justice. There was another, does someone else have a question about this? Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, I just wanted to,
Press your, okay, no, press it one more time. There you go.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just clarification, we went through this last week, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. It says extend the contract with the consulting for the first year option year and authorize CEO to exercise the second and final option year. So I'm not quite sure, are we saying we're going to do a 2-year agreement up front? Because up above it says we're going to approve it for 2 years with an option to extend for 3 additional 1-year terms. And then down below, I'm not sure what the recommendation is, for the first year, option year, what does that mean?
So the PSTA board, 2 years ago, approved a maximum 5-year contract.
Okay.
And authorized,
Okay.
only approved funding for the first 2 years, which we've now completed.
I got you.
And then there's 3 option years remaining, where you're approving option year 3 and then authorizing the CEO to, with consulting with the legislative committee, et cetera, to, if needed, approve years 4 and 5.
If I could read better, I would have read it in 2016 instead of, I was reading 2018. So that didn't make sense to me, so I apologize. Yep, good.
No problem.
Good to go.
I was confused as well. Anyone else have any suggestions, comments, amendments? Nothing?
Motion to approve?
No, hold on, please, because I have a little teeny amendment I would like considered here. Given what goes on in the legislature every year, I would like it to reflect in our motion that it is subject to the approval of the legislative committee, and I'm a little uncertain about where we're going to be after this homestead exemption, given the news that I've heard with our new speaker coming in and what his priorities are. So I'm comfortable with the first part of this recommendation, but I really think there needs to be some substantive discussion after the first 3 years go by.
Okay.
Does anyone else agree?
After each year.
Yeah. Because there's so much changing, Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So your suggestion is, one, to more formalize the review by the legislative committee?
Yes.
I think that's fine. The second part of your suggestion seems to null the part of the action item about giving the CEO the authority, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, but is that, I want to make sure I'm clear on what you want to do.
Well, it's not that I don't have confidence in Brad, but in an effort to be totally transparent, I think that there are a lot of folks on this board with a deep bench of experience, and I'd like their input in case they're not on the legislative committee. This is just me personally. I think there's a lot of moving parts. A lot of things change from one session to the next, and I think we can all agree we're in pretty tumultuous times, and I want to make sure, given all the things that are coalescing around the issue of transportation, that we are able to take advantage to the very best of our ability, whatever the needs might be 3 years from now, for example. So that's just my thought. Whatever your wishes, I'm fine.
Essentially, at the recommendation of the legislative committee, then the executive director would execute the agreement.
Yes, but I do think that it needs approval from the full board.
Oh, okay.
So, Madam Chair, then it would be, if someone was making a motion for what you want to do, it would be that we approve the 3rd year and we clarify that the 4th, any extensions would have to come back to the full board.
Yes.
I would make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Justice. Thank you, Commissioner.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes.
So,
I originally motioned it, yes.
So
This is
we
a-
have friendly amendments, is what we're saying. How do we do that properly?
okay, well then ask the maker of the motion if she accepts the amendment.
I'll restate the motion as with amendments from Madam Chair. They're on the record.
Commissioner
So-
Justice, could
so-
you repeat
Yes.
your favorable?
Withdraw your,
I'll
Why
withdraw
don't
my
you,
motion.
and then there's a
Commissioner Justice,
second,
go ahead.
agree to the withdrawal? I don't know who seconded that
there wasn't
motion.
a second.
Just as-
Oh, there wasn't a second?
Not on,
No, not on.
Oh,
my
so then that
first.
motion's not on the floor, so then we're fine. I'm sorry, I thought there was a second to that motion.
That's okay, clarification.
It was a
from-
second to the
Okay.
amendment.
From our legal folks is always welcome. Thank you, Commissioner Justice.
Sorry.
Commissioner Barkley?
Just so everybody's aware, in the Finance Committee, we did discuss a key issue here.
Press your buttons.
I did, but it went off.
Okay.
In the Finance Committee, in our meeting, before we approved this consent to continue with RSA, we talked about the fact that it is extremely important for continuity of representation in the legislative arena, especially as Commissioner Long suggested, there's a lot of turmoil. And so we specifically took into account the fact that different priorities come up each year as certain members of the legislature change, including the president. And we felt it was extremely important to have continuity of representation because we want to make sure that PSTA is well represented through the process of funding for our operations from the legislature.
Thank you, Commissioner Barkley. I think we can all agree with that. Commissioner Caudell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hear you, Commissioner Barkley, but this board changes as well, and I think that Madam Chair has a very valid point that in years 4 and 5, we do need the full board to revisit and reapprove, simply because no matter what happens in Tallahassee, we want to always keep the energy going. So, and I'm pretty confident that RSA is going to do that. But we do always have changes, so I think that the motion on the floor is accurate in making the small amendments.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioner.
you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Caudell. Commissioner Rice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support the motion on the floor as well, and I recall, and I am very pleased with the performance of RSA Consulting. But I do recall before we went through the process of approving the contract with RSA, we had some issues with the previous consultant, Gray Robinson, and that led to many conversations with this board and in our committees about requesting more reporting requirements. So I support this motion because I think the enhanced reporting requirements have been beneficial, but to kind of lose track of that by having our CEO unilaterally approve the contracts, I'm just worried about the process that we would kind of get away from what we've started. And I have total confidence in Brad as well. But we had set up a process of greater accountability that I don't want to lose that cadence of accountability in that reporting.
Thank you very well. Excuse me, very well said, Commissioner Rice. Anyone else? No? Then. I'm sorry, could I have the motion and who's the seconder again? Commissioner Justice. Okay, the second.
I did.
Just making sure I got it right.
So, just to restate, the motion, at least as I understand it, is to approve the renewal for the first option year and require the renewals for the second and final option years to come back to the full board.
Yes, sir.
And did you ask for public comment?
No, but I will. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak to this issue? Seeing none, all in favor, could you please open the voting card? Okay, now, Brad, do you want to update us on the reports in our...
Your packets are our monthly operating statistics, and at your request, we did add a line on there in light blue showing our growing number of rides on our, what we call our mobility programs. That's summarizing our first mile, last mile, and our late night, and our new paratransit programs with transportation network companies like Uber and Lyft. And now we're up to 6,000 rides a month, which is still quite low compared to the nearly 1 million rides that we provide on more traditional public transit, but it's growing. And we'll be providing that every month, and I'm sure it'll be a key part of our legislative agenda moving forward too, to get those rides, like the the traditional rides to count toward our various formulas. In addition, in your packet is a quarterly list of all of our contracts that PSTA has. Those are all the contracts that the PSTA board has approved, as well as any ranked in order of value. And you can see by that list that the biggest contracts that PSTA has are, of course, our operating contracts with Care Ride and Jolly Trolley. But then the contract that you just approved with Cigna is right up there. It's a major part of our annual operating budget is the health insurance and the other benefits that we provide to our employees. Moving right along to the future meeting subjects. Next month, we're excited to bring back, we're on schedule to bring back an award of our consulting contract for our bus rapid transit project, the Central Avenue BRT. That's been out on the street and is being reviewed now. We'll also be presenting to the board a look ahead to developing or modifying our performance scorecard. Not that we want to replace the beautiful poster in the back of the room there, but every year we'll take a look at it and see if there's anything that we want to change. I think we'll probably not necessarily change those 5 key areas that are shown on the poster, but we'll change maybe some of the operational metrics. So that's what you have to look forward next month. I don't know if there's any other questions.
I have a question, Brad. Is it too early to get any statistics on our airport shuttle?
Oh, no. At least I know that we have seen increases on the overall ridership on the route compared to what was operating previously. So that's a good sign. And then we have some anecdotal evidence of folks that have called into our customer service line, I guess, who have asked us about parking their car there and taking it and telling us about their flight. So we do think that there's folks that are using it. I have not luckily had to fly anywhere yet, but I plan on using it the next time I go to the airport. So far so good. You know, we also expanded service on another route in June. The 100X expanded from terminating at the Gateway Shopping Center in St. Petersburg nearby here, and now it goes down I-275 to downtown St. Petersburg. We haven't done as much marketing and outreach on that yet, but we're hoping to do some, and that provides the first one-seat ride from downtown St. Petersburg to downtown Tampa across the Gandy Bridge, and we are seeing some growing number of folks realizing that exists and people catching it in downtown St. Pete. So, so far so good in the early stages of both those routes.
Excellent. Great report. Commissioner Cardell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director, 300X and 100X, I know you've had me ask this about the nights and weekends, and our plans, of course, are to expand that. But what have we done publicly to guide folks on what happens when they do use it outside of nights and weekends and then they come back? What are we recommending them to do when they return back to Tampa, let's say, to get back to where they need to go when they've already taken the 300X or the 100X?
So what we, of course, we encourage them to take a look at the schedule and see if whenever their plane lands and they're ready to come back, that if there's a 300X that's departing the airport to come back, that they should obviously take that. But alternatively, they can we have an arrangement with Uber where they can get a discounted Uber ride back from the airport to the Ulmerton Park and Ride, and they get a $10 discount off their ride if they take that Uber trip.
They pick up that Uber where? In what location at the airport?
At the regular Uber, right there at the gate.
Arriving flights.
Yeah.
That's been a very heavy question. So,
yeah.
Thank you for your answer.
All right. The thought occurs to me that there might be an opportunity for some public service announcements. Have we ever looked into that? Where's Ashley? Is she even in here? Do you know the answer, or Brad, do you know?
Well, we have looked at, the possibility of both radio and television public service announcements on that. We haven't made too much progress in getting the TV stations and radio folks to agree to that. We have had some success with some of the city partnerships and getting information and utility bills and things like that. So those are all good tools for our marketing folks to pay attention to.
Yeah. Anyone else? All right. Now we are on other business. Do we have other business?
If I could just make a couple more quick comments. I have some positive and some maybe not so positive news to report. The not so positive news is our favorite PR person, Ashley Handy, is leaving us to follow her significant other to veterinary school. She's not going to veterinary school, but he is. And so she'll be leaving us next month. It's very sad. She's done a great job in cultivating really good relationships with the media. Significantly improved, I would say, relationship with the media over her 3 years here, and really helped with the messaging of a lot of our programs, like we've been talking about with this 300X being a great example of that. On a more positive front, I'm pleased to report that PSTA has gotten yet another person to be approved into the Leadership After program. Trish Collins, our HR director, I got a call from APTA, the National Transportation Association, that Trish's application was approved to be one of 25 selected up-and-coming transit leaders in the country to be added to Leadership APTA. She represents the fifth PSTA employee that has gotten into Leadership APTA, and I'm going to try to do some analysis to see if we've got the record. But Abhishek Dayal is in the current class. Can't take total credit for Abhishek because he actually got in when he was a Phoenix employee, and then we wooed him over here. And then both Cassandra Borchers and James Bradford both were in Leadership APTA previously, and I was in it a long time ago. So hats off to Trish, continuing the great PSTA tradition of,
Well, I also would like to comment that that's a great kudos to the leadership of PSTA, that you are mentoring your employees so well and encouraging them to become real transit leaders. That's something to be very proud of. We have a very strong team here at PSTA, and I'm really confident that we're going to move the dial on public transportation opportunities for our region. So stay tuned because it's very exciting. All right, now board member comments. We are on to board member comments. I cannot believe we've gotten through this agenda the way we have today. Thank you, everyone. Let's start with Commissioner Bennett.
I don't have any comments at this time.
All right.
No comments.
No comments. Commissioner Wheeler-Brown?
I just would like to congratulate Ashley. Oh,
how about you?
My button.
Yeah, push your button.
I just would like to congratulate Ashley. Hey, there you go. Good luck. Thank you.
Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, also congratulations, Ashley. Just, I guess, a comment on the funding conversations later. I think it would be a really good idea that that we at PSTA make sure that as we want to tell our story, that we isolate areas that have specific success that might be candidates for additional funding wherever it might come from, so that if our airport trip is going well and we want to expand to Clearwater, there's a rationale for doing it. If there are one or two lines that may need maybe an additional reduction in headway, excuse me, for the additional, that we target those things and talk about the cost to run those specific programs. Because one thing that folks are not going to want to hear about is putting more money into a system that gets juggled around and doesn't produce those projects or routes that are very, very successful. So as we all go forward to talk about that in a small group or in a larger group, however that's going to come out, I think it's really going to be important that we are on our game, that we can say exactly the things that we're doing well, and where we will target funds so that it is very specific, because I don't think anybody's in any mood to raise taxes this year, especially in light of the fact that we're getting 8% increase this year on our property values without specific items pointed out. Thank you.
Well said, Commissioner Eggers. Thank you. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I did have the opportunity to ride 300X to the airport last week.
Good for you.
And overall, it was a good experience. So it's great because PSTA is going somewhere now that I have to go to on a fairly regular basis. So I'll certainly use the service again. And it was free. I didn't realize we were doing a promotion on it, but it was. So that was even a bonus. I had my $3 ready and didn't have to pony that up. So that was great. So thank you, PSTA, for that.
How'd you get back?
Well, I flew back on Saturday, so my wife picked me up.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, but it was good opportunity. It was good service. Now there weren't any luggage racks on that particular bus, which I just wedged my bag between a seat, which wasn't a problem, unfortunately, because I was the only one going to the airport. There were a few other people that were going to downtown Tampa, but as that service grows, I do think that is an opportunity to save some money with contracted services with private motor coach capacity. So I think that's something that we might want to talk about in the future. And then also, I don't know if really a concern, but an observation that I have is with the vehicle selection that we have going on, I see that we have an increased risk exposure. On the consent agenda today was an item to approve expenditure of $302,000 to repair one of our diesel hybrid buses that had gotten rear-ended by a dump truck. And in the 35 years that I've been in the transportation business, I've never seen an estimate that high to repair a vehicle. We're fortunate in this case that the person that did the rear-ending had a $500,000 policy, so it's not going to be any cost to PSTA, although we're going to be without that vehicle for probably a year. But that's a rarity, and I can tell you from personal experience that the majority of the people on the road are either underinsured or uninsured. So, you know, as we seem to be going in the direction more of electric vehicles, you know, those vehicles are knocking on the door of $1 million a copy. And I don't know that they have the crash survivability of a Gillig based on the Altoona test reports I've seen on that particular vehicle. But I think that raises the possibility that PSTA could potentially have a total loss in the future. And nobody out there is going to have that kind of insurance, or very few people out there are going to have that kind of insurance to cover that kind of a loss. So I just want to make sure that we have some discussion about that and we understand what our risk exposure is, because PSTA, we don't carry any physical damage coverage on our vehicles. And also on the worker safety side, I've seen some training that New Flyer Industries provides for technicians working on their electric vehicles. And the techs have to wear 2 sets of rubber gloves, rubber boots, use rubber-coated tools, and it's recommended they work with one hand behind their back so they don't accidentally complete a circuit between themselves and the vehicle when they're working on the battery packs. And it's also recommended they have a buddy system, a guy behind them with like a gong show type hook to pull them off the vehicle if something accidentally goes wrong. So I just want to make sure that our risk management protocols are keeping up with this increased exposure that we have. So I think we should have some further discussion on that.
Lots of good questions raised, Commissioner Scott. And what committee should we refer that to for further inquiry, Brad?
I am sure that our Director of Maintenance, Henry Lukasik, and the Finance Committee will enjoy a robust discussion on those important issues.
Thank you. And with that said, can we ask that at the next one, those issues be put on the agenda, and then Commissioner Barkley can bring back a report to us? I think they were pretty significant issues to talk about or be aware of.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay? All right, Commissioner Eckers?
Yeah, on that point, if in that discussion, Brad, we could maybe take a look at the accident that we're talking about that did happen and maybe compare it to other buses, other types of buses, if something similar had happened, to see what kind of estimate, just for the conversation. It may not be able to do kind of an apples and apples, but I think it would be helpful to have the dialogue in fact. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Commissioner Barkley, press your button, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations to Ashley. Congratulations to Chris. Two quick items. One is that we need to have faith in our committees to evaluate items of all types, depending on the committee, before we bring them to the board as a whole. The board's job is really not to micromanage every single item. And when we pull back recommendations from a committee and discuss them with the full board, we're bypassing the system that is in place as far as how we operate. So when we're talking about a consultant, when we're talking about a repair that was evaluated thoroughly in the Finance Committee, we are not only extending the time that our meetings are going to take, but we're also negating the authority of the individual committees, whichever committee is involved in bringing a recommendation, so that the committees have diminished value. So we need to evaluate whether we want to have discussions at the committee level and recommendations made by those committees to the board, or whether we want to just have a board meeting for each item that we're talking about. And I don't think that's the way the PSTA system was arranged originally. I defer to Alan on that, but I just feel that we're becoming micromanagers. And the second thing is that we're also diminishing or negating the authority of our CEO. Our job is to evaluate how the buses operate, but not repair the buses, check every contract, et cetera. Those are done at the committee level with recommendations being made to the board. If we don't, if there's a particular committee that we feel is weak, then I'd recommend that we have additional members beyond those committees. But we shouldn't be taking the time of the board to revisit every single item that a committee has already evaluated. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Barkley, and I would like to address them just from my own perspective for a moment, because a recommendation is a recommendation, and some of us on this board have had some pretty in-depth experiences with boards that took their eye off the ball and just approved every single thing that there were no questions asked, no opportunity for discussion. And while I have full faith and confidence in our CEO and the committees that we have put in place, I can share with you the PSTA has come a long way in terms of how we operate and don't micromanage the efforts of the staff. And so I would hate to see us get to a place where all we do is just, you know, every recommendation is approved, no questions asked. That's not the purpose of a board. We're here to set policy, and asking questions is part of ensuring that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And that's just my personal point of view. Commissioner Rice.
I was just going to take my turn. I wasn't going to comment on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry.
Okay, well, it is your turn, so
Okay.
carry on and press your button, please. Oh,
It
okay,
is.
it is.
I did, that's
Okay,
right.
good, all right.
Thanks. Congratulations to Ashley. You're bright, creative,
Come on up here, Ashley, so everybody
proactive,
can see who we're talking
really have some
about.
great outcomes to show for in your work with PSTA, and you've got a great team. So we're going to miss you and wish you the best of luck as you go forward. I see that in August, we are going to be voting on our Central Avenue BRT design contract, and I'm looking forward to that discussion. And I know this is probably already on your radar screen, but I would like to, in our August or September board meeting, get a little bit of an update on what will be happening with our changes in October, with starting our electric bus service and the new Looper downtown circulator service in St. Petersburg. Those are some exciting projects, and it would be great to kind of get the 411 on what's happening before we begin that service.
Excellent, good comments. Commissioner Johnson?
Push the button, okay? Ashley, I don't get to share the seat with you on the bus. We had so much fun, and I'm going to miss you so much. Good luck. You've done an awesome job. Thank you. I just want to say, transportation disadvantaged, we're rolling along. We're doing good. Our biggest problem is getting the news to the rest of the county. We seem to have pockets in place of people that are taking advantage of what we have to provide for them. Now we need to be able to get to those other parts of the county that aren't taking advantage. So thank you very much. Thank you, Whit. Whit's been helping a whole lot. And to the rest of you, when you find out what transportation disadvantaged is, please spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Justice?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just always great to have Mayor Beavis in any meeting with us. Good to see you, Doug. And also great to have Councilman Johnson back.
Thank you so much, Charlie.
Thank you. Commissioner Tornga?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to comment on the board meeting for next month, but before I do that, just on behalf of the board, I just want to thank all the PSTA employees for everything that you do and constantly do, and for the efforts that you put in. We really appreciate it, and that goes then to Ashley as well. Thank you, Ashley. I'm very excited about the next meeting, particularly about the downtown circulator, the BRT design contract, as was mentioned before, and about the shelter plan. And I think that's really good stuff to get out. I would hope that we can have a very robust presentation on that so we all understand here, and then hopefully this can be broadcast just a little bit better as to what our shelter plan is. I assume that that's all included in that, Brad?
Oh, yeah.
It's already, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tornga. Commissioner, there you go.
Thank you, Madam. First off, and I'll talk with Brad about this on my one-on-one. I know in Tarpon Springs we've been having some increased issues of I'm not sure how to say it, not vagrancy, but a lot of litter being left around the different bus stops, and we have one off Huey, which is our pretty much main bus stop in Tarpon Springs. Is like probably has 20 shopping carts out there right now, and while that's not under our purview per se, I want to know if there's anything that other communities have done to help clean up around the bus stops. And I know a lot of families use that bus stop and want to make that as clean and welcoming as possible. So if you I'll talk with you on my one-on-one if you have any ideas of how other cities in Pinellas County have dealt with that. We're trying to clean the bus stops up and handling some vagrancy issues over in Tarpon Springs. In regards to your PSAs that you talked about, we do have our own water bills in Tarpon, so if you want something in there, if you can email that to me, and I can have that put in, and I can check with Mayor Beavis. Can you do that as well with your osmosis plan? Okay, great. And I think Safety Harbor's on Pinellas County, but I'll double check with them. They're not?
They have their own water.
They have their own water? Okay, great, then I'll check with that. So maybe all three cities that I represent can do that, but I know Tarpon can, and Mayor Beavis said that Oldsmar can, so we would be happy to help there as well, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Banter. Commissioner Caudell.
Thank you. I think Clearwater, I don't want to speak out of turn, already has them going in their bill, their water bill, but if we don't, please let me know and I'll be glad to help you with that. And furthermore, I'm not sure if it's too early, but I know we talk a lot about the BRT in St. Pete, which I'm really excited about. But if we have some updates that we can provide at our next board meeting with regards to the BRT study from Clearwater Beach to the airport, it might be a little early, but it would be good to start getting that out on the radar. I would like to also, Ashley, I didn't get a chance to really work with you much, but best wishes. Mayor Beavis and your team up there in Oldsmar, as you know, I've already posted your congratulations on social media side, so that also helps us with PSTA. And I also want to say a really, really warm thank you for the transit study, Madam Chair, that T-BARTA did last Friday. It was well attended, and hats off to Chairman Welch and to Chairman Merman, meaning Pinellas County and Hillsborough, for their presentations at that summit. It was very well attended and very well heard. So one voice, and as we do our social media, hashtag one voice would be great.
That's a great idea.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. And I do want to say thank you to the PSTA folks and the staff and for all they've done to put us on the front burner in terms of public transportation options in our region. And yes, the transit symposium / summit last Friday was really well done, and I look forward to the next one, which hopefully will be in Pinellas County, and then everyone can come to our side across the bridge and see how that works. Getting back home at the end of that Friday afternoon was an interesting trip. So we didn't have a bus, Brad. Maybe we should have had. That might have been helpful. But Ashley, we are all going to miss you, and I do wish you the very best in St. Kitts. It's a beautiful, beautiful spot, and we look forward to visiting with you when you come back home. So thank you. Nice to see Commissioner Johnson here at the dais today. Thank you for coming back. And so with that said, thank you, Gloria, for your idea about the award. And I know that Mayor Beavis is just ecstatic that he was the first person to receive it. Good job, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for the good of the order. If there's nothing else, then we are adjourned. See you next month. Thank you.
Well, have a good rest of
I know.
I don't know if it's the agenda or what. Do we want to move up some of our stuff, maybe the legislative meetings, since Alan is here and so is Natalie?
Well, maybe we can do them first.